so excited for this episode, and I've been looking forward to this for weeks because honestly, like I always love member video reviews, and this is a member video review with a little pizzazz. It's a member fall video review, and we are joined here by none other than Danny Warrington, and he is honestly, I mean, he's probably seen more fall videos than the rest of us combined. So if anyone can really talk to this subject, it's Danny. Danny, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, it's a great talent to have, huh?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Uh, it is, yeah, quite the talent to have. Danny, can you start us off today with just telling us kind of where you are, a bit about your background. For anybody who isn't familiar with you, just give us a quick intro to Danny.
Yeah. So the we it's my wife and I run that Landsafe program, and basically I rode races early on in my career. I rode my first race in '87 and my last race in '97, '98. And then I started eventing and kind of went advanced and did some stuff in the eventing world. And my uh, and Kelly was a gymnast, and she did the horse thing, and it was pretty. There's been some gloomy times, in eventing over the years. We've had some staggering years where the fatality rates were very, very high. And 2008 was one of those years, and 2016 was another one of those years that the numbers were just horrific. And in 2017, I retired from riding competitively and decided to do something else. And then Philippa Humphreys had her fall at Jersey Fresh. And I'd had this sort of thought in my mind since I wrote the article in 2008, rider responsibility. If you haven't read that, that is still probably the pinnacle article that everybody that rides should read and really understand. That article actually went global, which kind of put me on the track to this whole safety thing. And then we sort of started this program, and through the gymnastics part of it, education that Kelly provides, and through the skill set that I have from riding races and breaking. I started breaking babies when I was 2 years old, or 2-year-olds when I was 13 years old. So I had those days backwards. Started breaking 2-year-olds when I was 13. So, I've been bucked off, thrown off, spun off, wheeled off, flipped over, like the whole thing. And so the experience level that you gain, understanding where the exits are, understanding that no, not every fall you're going to get away from, but if you can reduce a lot of that injury through experience, through understanding what your job is to do, it's pretty important. And the more I do this, and the more involved I get in the safety, or we get in the safety aspect of this thing, is, one of the things that I've learned in the last 4 or 5 years really is how and I'm not saying, I'm being very careful about this, but how our helmets, the standards for helmets in this country and in the world, but especially here at the ASTM, is so low that the helmet, like, even though you wear it, the standard is so low that it isn't that protective versus a motorcycle helmet, or versus an NFL helmet, or versus, right, the standard is so low that it's acceptable to have a less protective helmet, right, than it probably should be for the sport that we play. And so then we have to really understand how much we, as the rider, have to take the responsibility to protect our head and our neck, and look after ourselves in a fall. And that's how Landsafe kind of got started.
Yeah, falling is an interesting thing because it's something that everybody does. Everybody falls off, but it's something you just kind of hope doesn't happen, and you just hope when it does happen that you like hope for the best. And I think that's kind of the really silly thing about all this is like it's inevitable when you're dealing with horses that it's going to happen. And so it's definitely makes perfect sense that it's something that we should be prepared for, and that we should have a plan for, and
Yeah.
that we should practice. And so I think what you're doing, it's so logical.
And I think that's where the steeplechasing thing kicks it off so well, is because there is, like, it's a little bit like bull riding. It's not when you're going to fall, it's how bad you're going to fall. It's not when you're going to get hurt, it's how bad you're going to get hurt, right? And so you have a different sort of mindset to the whole thing, right? And so when I go around doing these clinics and you see, oh, my kid doesn't want to fall, or what, like, well, then you probably shouldn't ride like that.
Yeah.
That sort of becomes the I came from that school of, if you're going to get on, you're going to fall off. If you're going to ride, you're going to fall. And so you need to know these things. I had a conversation with an upper level rider one time, and they said they didn't really want to talk about falling. And I was like, that's interesting to me, because every time you get on an airplane, you talk about where the exits are, where the oxygen tank is, where the life jacket is, right? And so you're willing to have this conversation at 36,000 feet, but you're not willing to have it at 6 feet. Like, so sometimes the logic of where equestrians sort of push back on what we're talking about or how we're addressing it is an interesting sort of model, right? Because you as a sport, I call you sport horse riders, right? Like, you don't want to fall. Like, that's the whole thing. It's but yet it'd be like going snow skiing and saying, I don't want to fall. Like, you're going to fall, you're going to bust your butt, you're going to go down. So it's best to figure out how you're going to do it and reduce the injury the most, or take the most chances of knowing how to reduce that injury.
Absolutely. And one note, try to avoid hitting your desk. It's
Yeah.
just it's making
I'm sorry.
it's making loud noises. Sorry about that. Yes, but I completely agree. It is something that we all need to be more cognizant of, thoughtful about, and Landsafe is kind of that step in that direction, a major step in that direction. So we're so appreciative of you and Kelly and all the work that you guys have put into creating that program. And I think it's a good time to pull up some photos that Danny sent over of a rider, his friend who had a fall. And these photos are an example of kind of how to execute a fall correctly. And Danny, I'll pull these up and kind of let you talk through what you're seeing uh, throughout this kind of this series of photos. So let me see. You're able to see that?
Yeah, we're good. Good.
So we
Yeah.
have this first photo here, and I'll kind of go through them. Tell me when to stop.
Okay. Yeah. So this horse is obviously having a bit of a run out. The horse in front of him ran out, but here's we'll go through the fall here, and as the horse hits this fence, go to the next one there. Billy spots where he wants to go. So if you look at where his eyes are, right, he's looking for a way out, because that horse is going to fall there. He wants to get away from that accident. I don't want to be part of it. You go to the next one. And then the arms come out, and you're going to see as this goes, these arms are what's going to protect that head and the neck. That's what's going to decelerate that initial impact. So you can go to the next one.
One thing I think is interesting here is, and I've talked to you enough in the last couple of months to know this, but I didn't know previously, is how much you emphasize getting your arms out there. I think there is this common misconception that if you put your hands out, you're gonna break your wrist or you're gonna break your arm. Um, and I think people are like, okay, well, don't put your hands out because you want to avoid that. But it's like that's something that'll heal in 6 weeks. Like that is completely fine. Break your wrist. That's best case scenario. Like what are kind of your thoughts on your reasoning for having your arms out?
Yeah, and so one, what I say in a clinic is you have two of these and one of these. So we're going to use these to protect this, right? That's
For
what's
anyone listening, Danny's pointing to his head as
yeah,
as one of these.
two hands, one head,
Yeah.
right? So we have two arms, one head, one neck, one back, one spine, right? So we have two arms, and so we can use those to protect ourselves. And if you do it, there's a difference in a moment's notice here, right? That we're not going to stop this fall. So you don't ever want to stick your arms out and lift your chin up and not want to fall. The trick is to say, I want to roll. I'm going to roll. I'm going to decelerate this impact, sort of however that thought process goes through. And that's why in the program we just do it over and over and over and over and over again. So all of a sudden you realize that, yeah, I need to use my arms to protect my head. And I think that's, one of those things is, yeah, don't stick your arms out. Use them to decelerate the impact. And, in this picture, you go to the next frame and you'll see, this is the perfect, anybody that's taken Landsafe that's on this, or anybody that has seen any pictures, this is nearly exactly what we teach, right? If I were to pick, his hands would be a little closer, but I think they may be a little closer even in the next frame. But then the chin tucks in there, and that creates the roll. So as the arm folds, that is all deceleration of impact. And if you understand anything about MIPS technology is 11 to 15 millimeters of deceleration, right, of rotation to slow that impact down to the rotation of the brain. If you've got your arm fully extended, that's over 3 feet of deceleration. So imagine how much better that is for your brain than it is just the MIPS 11 to 15 millimeters, right? And so that shape and that arm, if you go back one, I think go back one, yeah, you see how that arm is bent a little bit. That arm is bent and strong, right? It's not locked. So if it's bent and strong, it won't break. It'll decelerate, right? And that's how you get through that roll is by doing that. And it's, it's not special what we're doing. It's the way the human body's designed. If you don't tuck your chin, you're not going to roll. If you don't stick your arms out, you're going to hit your head first. And it's a pretty basic idea, right? It's not hard. It's just what we've done is I've built this machine to put you in the situation and to show you how to use these skills and teach you how to roll out so that you can do this in a, I want to say in a safe manner, right? In a safe way. Like we're on mats, we're on cushions, we're on things. It's a controlled environment, and so being able to put yourself in a scenario that literally allows you to feel your heart rate change, right? When you sit on the machine and I take it to its rotational moment, your heart rate changes, guaranteed. And so then that's how we train the brain to go into this roll sequence. Arms up. I mean, that's just a classic, right? So arms are up there, protecting his head and neck. Like this, just as good as you can be there, right? Just everything is about protect. The chin is in as tight as it can be. He goes right in the bushes. Right? It's just a
Yeah.
great. Like you could, if the bushes weren't there, he probably would have rolled 4 or 5 more times.
Yeah.
But it's just a really good example of, and got up and rode the next race, right? Like, and so didn't break his arms, didn't break his wrist. It probably didn't feel too good, but in best case scenario, that's the best case scenario right there. And when I see people, especially, and it doesn't even have to be at the advanced level, but I see people go headfirst into the ground, still holding on to 2 reins. I don't understand it. And when I hear people say, don't stick your arms out, and when I hear people say, hold on to the reins, right, like those are the things those are the triggers that are the wrong triggers, right? It should be let go of your reins and protect yourself, protect yourself, protect yourself, protect yourself, right? I'm so lucky in a way, like I got drugged when I was like 6 years old or something. I held on my pony, got drugged across the cornfield, and my dad was like, you let go of that pony, we'll get you another pony, lots of them, there's only one of you. And I think we have to remember that we're pretty important, and we really need to look after ourselves.
Absolutely. I think it's a really, really interesting visual to see that Billy kind of executing that in such a textbook manner. And it's so interesting to see how far away he landed from his horse as well. It's like yeah, as you kind of said, he was looking where he wanted to go and he ended up there. And I'm guessing he kind of walked away from this and was totally fine. Is that right?
Yeah, rode the next race, surely. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
says a lot.
Yeah, well, it is. I mean, it says a lot. I mean, I sent you another set of pictures that we'll use another time, but you see the exact same form in that, right? The exact same body shaping skills, and so that body shape isn't unique to riding. It is unique to stunts. It is unique to. Uh, it's called 4-point landing, basically. And however you hit the ground, that is the best shape you can be in. Knees protect belly, hands protect head. And if your chin is in and your arms are out, that's the best way you can impact the ground. Now, we had a guy the other day, he was talking about, his wife, well, we fall in hockey. And I said, well, you're not really falling in hockey. That's not the injury that you're concerned about. The injury in hockey is that you're concerned about going headfirst into the wall. So
Hmm.
you're trying to keep your head up so that you see the wall coming, right? And so that's a different sort of skill, right? That's sliding. You're trying to stop. So you have to be careful sometimes in things that are not specific, right, to your sport. Like people that fall off of roofs, they're taught to splay out so that they can grab something because they're not taught to impact the ground. They're taught to try to stop from hitting the ground. Once they hit the ground, they should be in the same shape that I'm teaching here, right? That 4-point landing. Chin is tucked, shoulders are rounded, arms are out, knees are in as best you can get them.
Yeah. Wow, you've learned about people falling off all sorts of things.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting because you get into these conversations with people that are skilled, educated. I've talked to OSHA people, right? I've talked to firemen. I've talked to martial arts guys. I've talked to Navy SEALs, and it's amazing that people that are educated in self-defense, in falling, it all makes sense to them. And to be perfectly honest, horse people aren't educated in it. It's
Yeah.
not something that you are taught in your first lesson, right? And I was lucky. I met Tommy Turvey years ago at the World Horse Expo, and he said, he said it's interesting what you're doing. He said because when I'm doing, he's the stunt trainer for the Walking Dead or whatever that show
Cool.
is, right? He's a pretty famous stunt horse guy, horse trainer, animal trainer, but he makes his actors roll, like do forward rolls and somersaults before he lets them go, even if they're getting led through the scene and are going to be green screened out later, right? And so it's an interesting sort of concept. He's so involved in the safety aspect of it as a stuntman that we won't even talk about it in a sort of amateur friendly way. I don't. It's different, right? It's a
Yeah.
different mentality.
I think we have to change that mindset. I think we need to all strive moving forward to have falling be part of the training conversation and preparation conversation, and not going to competitions until you've learned how to fall right, or not jumping until you learn how to fall correctly.
Yeah.
Uh, or not really, I mean, not doing anything. And like it happens all the time. And I think all of us at least having a plan. I think that's a big part of it. Cause I know when I was riding consistently, like I didn't have a plan. It was just hope. It was just, as I kind of said, it was hope for the best. So I think having that mindset for when you're okay, when I do fall, here is my 4-part plan, and one of which is look where I'm gonna go and then tuck my chin, or all these kind of uh strategies that you share through Landsafe. I think that is really smart.
Yeah, no, there has to be. It's just it's sort of a little bit simple too. It's like a fire drill in school,
Mhm.
right? Like they ring the bell, you walk down the hallway, you walk out the door. Horse is going to fall. I'm going to brace. I'm going to stick my arms. I'm going to tuck my chin. I'm going to try to roll away. It's not hard if you have a plan. If your plan is, oh shit, I'm falling. That's not a good plan, right? Like, oh, I'm falling now, right? And so I'm not falling. I'm rolling, and it just changes the way you think about it, and it gives you a skill set that you can use. If everybody your whole life tells you don't stick your arms out when you fall, what are you going to do when you fall?
Yeah.
You're not going to stick your
Yeah.
arms out, right?
You're making me think of the fact that growing up, we were like absolutely drilled into stop, drop, and roll as if we were all going to start on fire at
Yeah,
some
yeah. At
point.
any
We were
given
all,
moment, that's
that was
exactly
just
right.
like
Yeah,
at any moment,
yeah,
we were
yeah.
going to try to go up in flames. But we need to stop, drop, and roll for falling off your horse,
Yeah.
because if I know how to start on fire, I should certainly know what to
Yeah,
do when I'm
exactly.
falling off a horse. Um,
Exactly.
okay, without further ado, I am going to jump into some of these member videos. And everybody who submitted, thank you so much for doing so. I know it is scary to submit a fall video and vulnerable to do so. So thank you for doing that and allowing us to learn from your experience. So I'm going to start us off with a video of Courtney. So let me get this queued up for you. And I think a lot of the things that we're going to see in these videos are probably going to be common themes throughout, but it'll be interesting to see. They're all different kind of things that happened. So um, let's watch Courtney to start. And can you see the video, Danny?
Yep, good.
Okay, and I'm going to start at regular speed, and then I can slow it down however you
Yeah,
want.
play it through once, and then we'll see what happens. Uh-oh. Yeah. So in all honesty, that's not too bad, right? So if you keep moving through that, let's see what we can improve. So eyes are up, arms are out, and then I think here comes the moment of keep going one more. Yeah. So that's see how that arm is dead stretched out and the eyes are up there, right? That was a pretty slow fall as far as speed goes, and so and the angle of that. So if that arm was slightly bent, that's an arm that doesn't want to fall. So that arm is stiff armed, right? And so I don't know if she sprained that arm or didn't or got away. I have no idea. But there's no bend in the arm at all, and the chin is up, right? So she's still. So go one more frame. Yeah, and so that arm gives way, One more. Yeah. And that's what caused so the back is flat on the ground. So
Yeah.
the tightness of the chin driving the round back, what we call angry cat, to get that back round, has kind of gone away because she stiff armed it. Now, that's a good case scenario because she took the brunt force on the arm, right? So the good news is she used her arms to protect her head. The only thing is to me it's a it's a good fall in a way, right? She used her arms to protect her head, but the things that she could have done better were to have that arm a little bent and tuck that chin sooner, and it wouldn't maybe have ended so flat on the back, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Super interesting. Yeah, I
And
hope.
you can see too there, like this is a little bit. She still had the rein in that other hand. Go back one more. Go back one more. Yeah. So that rein, I think, is still in the other hand, in the right hand.
And
Yeah.
over here,
No. So her
this
would
one.
that be her? Yeah, yeah, and that one. It's kind of small. Yeah. And so you see how he's jerking his head back,
Yeah.
and so that helped. So now there's nothing between her head and the ground because that arm, and that's what's going to also increase the back to flatten, right? So
Yeah.
when that whip, it's too bad people can't see me, but when that whip comes, that hyperflexes your spine and opens you up out of your roll, right? Like you can't hold on to the rein and get round at the same time. It opens you. That's kind of the reverse effect of holding on to the rein. But in all honesty, like she broke the fall with her arm, and I'm happy about that.
Yeah. That makes sense. So yeah, the force of the rain getting pulled is contributing to a hard landing when
Yeah,
she
harder
hits.
landing. Yeah, exactly, exactly. Because it's impossible to hold on to the rein and stay round and move through the fall. Right, the rein comes loose, and then she does roll a bit.
Yeah.
Right.
Super interesting. Great. Okay, that was Courtney. We're gonna go on to Denise next. Unless you have Danny, do you have anything else on the Courtney video?
No, I mean, and I think you're going to find a lot of this, like you said, it's kind of the same. You know, you sent me a few of these to sort of preview, and we had a little practice round, but we didn't get, luckily, we didn't get any really bad falls. So these are mostly sort of pop falls. People popping off of the tack. The horses aren't gone down. There aren't a lot of catastrophic injury to be seen in most of these. So here we're trying to reduce broken wrists, broken arms, concussions, right? Sprains, like that's what you're in these slower falls, right? Getting
Yeah.
stepped on, getting kicked, the as I call it, the and then, right? And then I got stepped on, and then he kicked me, right? And we sort of talk about that a little bit later on.
Yeah. I know one of these, at least one of these, resulted in a broken collarbone. And once we get to that video, it's pretty obvious that that was the result. I can like feel it happen.
Yeah,
Okay, here is Denise.
yeah. I think like the only thing here is why. Here's the question: why are you holding on to the reins? Right? Well, I don't want my horse to get loose. That's generally the answer. Well, I want you to look around that paddock right there, and there's a fence there. He gets turned out there some days too. So what if he gets loose? And I say this like in all honesty, like I've fallen off so many times, so many different circumstances, so many different things, and for the most part, someone has always brought the horse back to me, right? Even if I didn't want it back, they brought it back, right? You know, unless you're racing and they just take them back to the barn or something like that, or you can't get back. Someone always catches it and someone always brings it back. We don't live in the Wild West anymore. Like your horse isn't going to get loose and you're going to starve to death, right? You're going to have to walk for 20 miles home. And if you're a trail rider, okay, maybe, but you shouldn't be out there by yourself anyway. So we can go back and forth about that, what I'm going to call silliness. This fall, Denise did a really good job of keeping her head off the ground. She has a very good amount of neck strength, right? To not let her head, you can roll through that a little bit frame by frame there. Like that foot, I always say, like if you can get a foot to the ground, that's the best thing because that's the slowest acceleration. But they're holding onto the reins, and now in front of the horse, if he changes direction, if he decides then to go forward, you're pretty exposed there, right? You're pretty exposed. But I do, again, I like the fact that her head was never whipped back, which is really the big concussion getter on a low impact fall. I'm going to call these low impact falls. Um, fall on your butt, fall on your shoulder, fall on your hip. That's kind of low impact. But to withstand that and not let your head whip back, that's another thing that we really stress in the program.
Yeah. Yeah, she still's got her
Yeah, still
reins.
holding on to it. Uh, it's gonna help her get back up, you know.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, doesn't let go.
yeah, yeah.
You gotta appreciate the conviction.
Right. Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's a little bit the thing, you know. I sometimes, and there was something the other day, you know, posted a video of, you know, and I think we have to take this in two ways. I think we have to take it lightheartedly, right? Because it is a high risk, high impact sport, right? So we have to take it lightly, but at the same time, you have to take it a bit seriously, right? Like you have to be like that was a bit stupid, right? Like you can't you can't go around doing that because eventually that's going to catch up to you, and it might not catch up today, and it might not catch up tomorrow, but eventually that's going to catch up to you, and then you're going to be surprised that it caught up to you because you lack this little piece of information of protecting, like, and I'm just going to put it like of protecting yourself, right? And horses, they're not going to go far. They're going to go eat, right? They're going to go back to the barn. They're going to go join their buddies. And you know, I'm sure somebody's got a story, and you know, I've had the same story. Horse ran down the road, fell on the road, but look, I wasn't on him when he fell on the road, so I'm happy. Like that was his choice a little bit. And so as you move through these falls and you question the things that I want to question are are you in the safest place that you can be, right, in that moment? Are you looking after yourself? Are you thinking about what you can do to better to, and I'm going to use the word decelerate a ton, because you're not going to stop the fall. You slow it down. The ground's coming and it's going to hurt, right? But how much can you reduce that initial impact?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that makes perfect sense. Okay, we have Katie is up next. She let go.
Yeah, she let go.
Katie's our winner
Yeah,
of letting go.
yeah, I think so. Let go, and it was you. And people ask me this question a lot too. They're like, "Well, what if you hit a standard?" And I think, in all honesty, as she comes through there, that's what's gonna. You can't stop what you're gonna hit. That's open. See, the rain has opened her up because she's like you said, let go, but they're a bit snatched out, right? They're so that pulls and that creates this effect of being now open throughout it. And so as you go, keep going.
Yeah, I guess she does kind of hold on for as long as she
Yeah, yeah.
can. I wonder, are like it's hard to know. Do you think in some of these scenarios they're using? I mean, it kind of looks like she's using the rein to like try to balance back on, or do you think?
It's the whole. It's what. So the way I explain it is, if I walk up to you and I push you in that chair that you're sitting in, if I push your shoulders, you're going to reach down and you're going to grab the chair,
Yeah,
right? Because that's human instinct. And I say this in every clinic, like human instinct. We hold on to bad things. We hold on to bad relationships, bad investments, bad horses, right? Like that's what we do. And so in that moment, you're like, oh, I want to hold on to this. And really, you want to start to think about what do you need to do to make sure your head doesn't go into that post, or make sure you're going to get away from that horse as he spins around. Is he going to spin around? Is he going to kick? Like, where is your defense mechanism in this exact moment here? And basically, to me, most of the times it's a truly blank slate. I was talking to the guy the other day, and you know, he was telling me he breaking a young horse, and it bucked him off, and then it spun around, it kicked him in the head. And I'm like, I've landed on my feet 1,000 times getting bucked off, and it's just drilled into me. I get my arms up like I'm going to get kicked in the face because I don't know what it's going to do next. I'm very defensive in that, and yet as defensive as I am, I think a lot of people that know me would never know that I'm not defensive. But I'm very relaxed and very casual and very easygoing. But at the same time, I'm able to do that because I already know what I'm going to do in that moment, right? Like if it goes wrong, how can I get out of it if I can, right? And I'm not saying that and this is the hard part. There are still going to be injuries, and they're still going to get hurt, right? It's a dangerous, tough sport, but can you reduce 10% of that injury? Can you reduce 50% of that injury? Then it's worth having some education.
yeah, absolutely. So in Katie's case, would your advice? I mean, like it mostly
I
just would
think
your advice just be
it,
let go of the reins sooner?
well, I think, yeah, I mean, it's just when you hit that post, you're gone. You're off
Yeah.
now. You're not staying. You're off. So the idea here would be to try to get those arms up higher, so that they're around your head. So when you go on through that, like here, next, keep going. So that's wide open. Arms are open, right? It's wide open. So there's going to be when she hits on her back. Go ahead, next one. So that's butt, and the arms are down, and then yeah, see, her head's going to go right into the ground there because the arms were out and not up. So you go again. Yeah, see, her face is in the ground, elbows are out to the side. So it's actually a pretty good impact there. Um, Secondary, third, again, these are slow, so that wouldn't. I mean, that's not going to cause a lot of damage. It probably a lot of discomfort, but that's definitely head into the ground. Where if it was she was a little bit more thoughtful of really getting those arms up and around her head, that may have rolled again and without the head on the ground, right? And that's what we stress. Like every time you feel your head hit the ground, you should give yourself a little like, how could I have kept my head off the ground? Could I have used my arms? Could I have tucked my chin more? Could I have been rounder in my back? But that's why, because she opened up, the reins held on, opened up midway through the air, land a little bit open armed, right? If you watch, that's a pretty good one. If you go back like two more, like go back to right, yeah, there. So you watch a basketball player in that same moment. Watch how hard they pull their arms in front of their chest to pull their chins in so their heads don't whiplash into the floor, right? So the next time you watch it, well, it's the NBA's over, but when you watch highlight reels, watch the basketball players fall backwards. And at that moment, when they're going backwards, watch how hard they work not to let their heads hit the ground, right? And so we don't want you to cross your arms in front of your chest. We want you to get your arms up around your head. And this starts to look like it's going to be good, but way too much holding on. And then there's nothing you can do. But the interesting part here to me is like that's just if from the other angle, you'd be like, ooh, that's not nice.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're wanting like
Yeah, put your hands closer together. Yeah, you put your hands closer together. That's your arm helmet. Put it on. Right?
okay.
Yeah, yeah. And
For
that's what.
anyone listening, my hands are over my head like I'm about to dive into a swimming pool, and
We
my
don't use
chin
the D
is.
word. We don't use the D word.
You why not?
Because we don't want you diving. We want you rolling.
Okay.
Right?
Rolling. Okay, like
Yeah,
I'm about
yeah.
to roll into like I'm about to
Yeah,
front
yeah.
flip into a
Yeah,
swimming pool.
yeah, nice summer, nice forward roll,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's always that shape, right? It doesn't matter if you're going to land on your back or if you're going to land on your side or where you're going to land. That is the best place for you to be, and that's not my decision, right? That's not something that I came up with. That's cavalry, that's military, that's that's anything that is combat impact. You watch football players, if they're not holding onto the ball, watch how much they use their arms to decelerate impact and move into a roll.
Yeah. Super interesting. Okay. This next one is Keegan. And spoiler alert, she is our lucky collarbone winner.
I got one too. uh, and you can, so this is like when you get to that moment, so that's eyes up, right? So watch how this doesn't roll. So eyes are up, still in the ground, arms are dead straight, right? And then that crumples through because there's no chin tuck in that, because that's what I always sort of say, that's God's evil joke. Like when you're falling, you want to see where you're going, but the truth is you don't want to see where you're going. You want to look away from that ground, right? So that's hyperflexion of the back. Arms are like, I don't want to fall, right? Again, good. I don't mind broken collarbones. Like I said, jump jockeys, you just put little X's on the board, right? You just keep going through how many of those you break. But that again, that's the lack of that. That is just total lack of chin tuck, because that would, you tuck your chin right there, you just roll away, stand on your feet.
Yeah, totally. And I think she's got her reins in her hand.
Oh yeah. Which then pulls the arms out from underneath of you, so you go onto your head even more, right?
Yeah. Eesh.
Yeah.
That one just looks like it hurt.
Yeah, because like like that's the thing.
Straight.
It's straight. It ends up going straight down because there's no roundness of this of the back. There's no rounding. There's no thought. There's no thought of roll. The thought is to stop the fall, and that's what we tried. That's why I try to emphasize is that look, you're not going to stop the fall. Gravity always wins. So once you are falling, you think I'm rolling. I need to roll out of this. I'm going to roll out of this and tuck your chin. Like I have a cool video of a guy on a motorcycle and they're doing about 150, 200 miles an hour, right? Those GP motorcycles. And the front wheel just comes loose and he goes right over the handlebars. And you can see him with his eyes straight up and it's slow motion. And then it goes real time and then it goes slow motion. And then you see him tuck his chin in the air at 200 miles an hour and it flips him right over to his back. So if you have time at 200 miles an hour to tuck your chin and land on your back and slide, which is what they're taught to do, right? To slide with their feet up in the air and so that they don't catch their heels and go end over end over end. It's executed perfectly, right? And so all I'm asking I'm sorry, you have to remind me of her name.
Keegan.
All I'm asking Keegan to do there is, hey, tuck your chin. Like you don't want to see this coming, and that maybe that doesn't change the collarbone, but if she didn't have her arms deadlocked, right, and she had a little bit more of a roll thought, I think that may have been a little bit better off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, I'll take a broken collarbone over her going headfirst into the ground 10,000 times.
Yeah.
10,000 times I'll do that.
So is the correct order of operations to recognize you're falling, look where you want to go, and then immediately once you've looked there to tuck your chin?
Yeah, it's pretty quick, right? Like it's just, and it's literally a thought. Like I sort of expressed that as like it's a thought. He's gonna fall here. I want to go over there. And I was taught as a kid, sort of fox hunting and doing that. You look for a soft spot. The horse is going to go there. I want to go over there. If he's going to fall here, I want to go over there. And you sort of just literally, and I spoke to two pretty prominent people when I started this, and they both said the same thing, separate of each other in different countries. They both said the problem is these riders don't know how to get out. They don't know how to get out. Well, because we haven't taught them how to get out. Pony Club Games isn't really as popular as it used to be. The rough and tumble style of riding isn't what it once was, right? It's very groomed. It's very perfect, right? We practice perfect all the time. We don't want to talk about bad. And so all of a sudden you're in a bad situation and you haven't even heard the words get out or look for a way out or brace or tuck your chin or stick your arms out to protect your head. You've only heard stay on, right? And all of a sudden you're without vocabulary. And you don't need a lot of it. You don't. You don't need a lot of it. Just to think out. He's gonna fall. I want out. We spoke of another. If you want to play another video, I don't know what our time is like. But
yeah, we've got
we spoke of another rider the other day, and the picture is just eyes dead on the neck, and then you end up inside the circle of rotation, and you can't get out. And it's just that simple look, like you saw Billy look for a way out. I don't want to go there. I'm going to go over here, and it just gets you. He rolled far, but in our sport, in eventing, more or even in show jumping, you only need 6 inches, right? You just need to get out of the circle of rotation. You just need a little bit of room to get away from that horse when he goes down. And sure, you may land on your leg, you may land on your ankle, but you don't want to be you don't want to be what I call inside the circle of rotation. And the way to do that is to look for a way out and get those arms out and try to roll away.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes perfect sense. Okay, so I have Krista here.
Krista's gone for a swim.
Almost.
Yeah. I think, and here's that's your normal everyday all weekend at the schooling show, all weekend at the schooling event. That's every fall, every day, everywhere, right? Like we've seen that a million times. But here's the thing. That's cheered. That is cheered because she held on. And in the end, right? Like, okay, fine, she didn't hit her head, pretty rounded. But again, it goes to what are we going to do when the horse falls over that, or when the horse stumbles and goes and you go forward over that. So you're training the wrong instinct by cheering that on, if that makes sense, right? Because I've been there, right? And I don't know if that's the case here, but I'd be screaming, let go, let go, let go at the top of my lungs. Let go, let go, let go. Because you don't know, is he going to jump forward? Right? You're not helping. And people say it's like, well, he might get loose. Well, 50% of the time they get loose, and 50% of the time they stand there and look at you.
Yeah.
So holding on doesn't necessarily make it better. But I think the mentality of holding on is a lot of the problem, because then it's a bit championed, right? And but that's then training or teaching that skill is a good skill to have. But what if that horse went over? Let's play the other scenario where he goes over that, and he drags his hind legs, but then he falls over and rolls over on top, and all you're doing then is stuck inside the circle, holding on the reins, trying to hold on instead of looking for a way out or thinking about yourself. There's no thought about yourself here. I don't want to let go of him. And that to me is the issue in the whole thing, is that the mythology, don't stick your arms out and hold on to the reins, right? Two things that we're fighting, right? We're not in the cavalry. We're not in battle. This is a pleasure sport, right? This is for fun. Even if you're racing horses, it really is for fun. There's more money involved, but ask anybody in racing and they'll tell you we're not making money, right?
Yeah, I think if there's one thing that we can all, I hope there's a lot more than one thing everyone takes away from this, but I think one really easy change for everyone is to not to cheer when somebody holds on, to be the Danny in that at that clinic or at that schooling show who's saying, let go, let go, let go. Like the more that can become part, like kind of the standard, I think the more that we can move in that direction where people are trained out of this.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then next up is Bridget. And look at you. I'll show you hers here. And I believe this happens kind of at the end. So let me just skip ahead.
Usually that's where they end.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have much. I wouldn't have much problem with that. Like I thought, like again, this is a good one where it fights really hard not to let her head hit the ground. Right, there's a very good bit of tension. I think actually your feet kind of hit the ground first, right?
Hmm.
Um, and then that's a lot of discipline. But there, to me, like that, how hard the chin is fighting to stay up, like that's the good. Again, the good part. The the part of the arms being out, right? And there's even a bit of a roll, but again, pretty slow, right? Pretty slow fall, not a lot of impact, and I like the way sort of getting away from it, right? Like thinking out. I've seen people think back in or stand right up or whatever. Like I've seen people fall off and stand right up in front of the horse. You're like, what do you do you not think he might like jump on you or towards you, or like are you thinking about what next? And this one obviously isn't going to do that, but when they're tangled up and there's rails everywhere, are you thinking about helping him, or are you thinking about not getting hit by him or by a rail, right? What are you doing to get away from the situation and be safer, right? And I have to use the word safer because safe is you know relative.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as it goes, it feels like Bridget did a pretty good job here.
Yeah. No, I would say that of all of these here, I would say that that's your best. Her knees are in a bit, right? So that's sort of forcing that chin in, right? The more compression you can get, and I think it's really good that she held her head up. Um,
Yeah.
Obviously, and almost always arms could be higher, right? If I when I'm teaching this and when we're going through the clinic, the way, and there's a bit of a difference in what we do. So racing sort of hit, roll, cover. And in eventing and show jumping and sport horse stuff, like you don't really need to do the cover part, right? And so with this, the hit roll, I would want my hands up in case that rail comes down on my face, in case that, right? And so I always think more of like a boxer. I don't want anything being able to get into my cage or into my frame. Like if you're looking at the screen now, you can't really see me. So that's kind of where I'm going to be. I'm not going to be here trying to get up. I'm going to be much more thoughtful of protecting this area, and it's just drilled into you. And so all of a sudden he comes over the top and hits you. Well, he hits your arm instead of your face, and we've all seen that, right? We've all seen the studded cheek, and we've all seen, right? Well, I'd rather have a stud rip through my arm. I'd rather, right, like, and not in my face. And I think we have to really understand that not maybe that fall is not a bad one, but hey, you should get your arms up a little higher. Like, look at this. Like, he could kick you in the face if he spun around and kicked through the rails, right? And I'm using the ones that you have
Yeah.
as ideas of what what I'm truly talking about is, the initial impact is one thing, right? We need to decelerate that. We need to slow that down. The roll is another thing. After that, what do it's like what happened. Pirelli says, what happened before what happened happened. It's like what happened after what happened happened, right? Like, and so we're going to keep staging this thing until you're basically in the safest place that you can be.
Yeah.
Well, when do I get up? I'm like, well, when somebody taps you on the shoulder and asks if you're okay. Like, when you feel like you're good to get up, you rolls are free. You can, they give them away at Olive Garden. You just keep rolling, and no one's going to take that away from you. No one's going to charge you for it. So there's no, and now in this day and age, we're not even allowed to get back on. So what's the hurry? Why are you trying to get up? You might as well think about rolling again.
Yeah. I feel like it's adrenaline. I feel like you're just like so I'm okay. I'm okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's lack of, you know, you don't fall that often.
Yeah.
When you're at the racetrack or when you're breaking babies or when you're riding, steeplechasing, like when you're doing those things, you're falling a lot. And I see it too, like recreationally. Um, I do a lot of water sports and a lot of snow sports, and I see it a lot on the water. I'm like, man, you're just lifting your chin right up and taking that right on the chest. Why did you try to roll out of it? And I can compare those videos too. It's the same thing. It's a lack of thought of, well, I'm falling. Well, let's try to not fall on our face. Let's try not to let the board hit us when we fall. You just different little things that you can do, right? And sometimes the board hits you and sometimes you can't, but dude, 10% of the time, you can do something, right? And that's a lot. That's a lot of percentage.
Absolutely. Everything makes a difference when it comes to this stuff. Um, okay, we've got Grace. We're almost here. Okay.
Ooh.
Grace is a little hard to see.
Yeah, yeah. Grace just lays there like eye flop, right? Look at that to me, right? Watch this, just to go to that
It's hard.
spot where she's just right there, just laid out like it's nap time, right?
Yeah.
Just hit the ground as flat as a pancake, no deceleration, no thought of like anything. Just I'm flying through the air and now I've hit the pole. And can you go one more frame? Two more.
Forward.
Yeah, yeah, keep going the way it's going through the
I don't know
rail.
if we see much.
Yeah,
That's all
that's
we
not it.
see.
Yeah, yeah, pretty flat, right? And
Yeah.
so when you see flat like that, there's no thought of roll. That the thought of that is I'm falling, and her legs are just dead straight out, back completely arched. And again, we're not looking at the worst kind of falls here. We're looking at the average. But if you were to say now, hey, you need to get your arms up a little higher. You need to bring those knees in, right? You need to get a little rounder. You need to think about rolling. And if you start that now, maybe by the time you get to where you're gone really fast and a bad fall may happen, you might have a little more instinct, right? A little more thought about it instead of saying, "Oh, you got lucky." Just like if you're teaching a lesson, you don't tell them everything is good, right? Like that's the whole thing is to get better, to get better, to get better. And so if you see a fall like that, you're like, you need to maybe tuck your knees in a little bit, maybe try to get a little rounder, try to keep your head off the ground. Well, then the next thing you see somebody roll in, and I'm talking to the coaches and the trainers out there. You see somebody roll over in their face into the ground. You might say, you might want to try to keep your face off the ground when you fall, right? And so maybe it triggers something in that person to go, oh yeah, I did hit right. And so that's what we're trying to do is trigger these things that make you think about protecting yourself. because that obviously that girl has no thought of protecting yourself in there at any given moment,
Yeah.
right? Like at no time was there any thought of self-preservation.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where you need the plan. You need to know if when not if, when this happens, what am I going to do? Because if you don't make that plan, there's no chance you're gonna ever execute the right thing. Like
Yeah.
it's not gonna happen naturally.
Yeah, well, because naturally you don't want to fall, right? And
Mhm.
naturally you want to stop the fall, and just you know, naturally you want to shrug your shoulders when it's cold. Like so nature not sometimes isn't always right. I mean, naturally we're not supposed to ride horses. You know what I mean? Like you're not. So you're sort of doing these things, and they're don't pull on the reins, right? Like yeah, don't stick your chin up when you're falling. Like keep your chin up. Well, my coach told me keep my chin up. Well, yeah, because that was your when you were riding, because that keeps your back flat. Well, now if you're falling, that's the opposite. You don't want your back flat. You don't want your chin up because your chin makes your back flat. So now you got to tuck your chin so you can round your back, and it all makes sense. But people need to understand how it applies, and how to apply it, and then how to get confident with it, right? I mean, we get people that come through the clinic, and they've never done a somersault. They've like I'll grab their arms and push on their arms, and they just hit themselves in the face. I'm like, you do you think the ground is going to be nicer than me? Like, and that's another part of where we are in society is everything is unicorns and rainbows until it's not, and then it's a problem. And so we have to remember this is a very dangerous, very high impact sport. So you need to treat it as such from start to finish. You can't just go and be like, oh, that was unlucky. Some things are unlucky. Some things are a, an array of bad choices, right? And things just went wrong. And some things are just lightning strikes. But there are enough things that aren't that you can change that it's worth having the conversation, and doing the program, or taking martial arts, or doing something that makes you be a little bit more self-aware.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, we've got 2 more quick ones here, and then I want to learn about how people can attend a Landsafe clinic and we'll finish on that. So here we have Maddie.
Oh, that wasn't bad, Maddie.
Yeah, it kinda feels yeah,
Yeah,
looks like
on lands on the feet, moves it out, arms are coming up. There's a bit of a roll to it, right? I think as far as the, you know, when I when we do this, I am interested in one. Oh, there. Go back one more. There was the weakness in that. That's the. Oh no, that's all right. Her back's that's a roll, right? She didn't let her head whip. You can see the back rounding there, um, and not a neck whip. So that's good. My my goal, my focus is impact to the ground, right? And so you could have 20 ECP, 100 jumper certified trainers, coaches, Olympic level coaches. They're all going to tell you why that happened, right? Why did the fall happen? I don't care. That's not my job. That's not it. My job is the moment of impact. And where were you in that moment, right? So I am 500 milliseconds of the worst second of your life, right? I am the that's it, because that's where the injury occurs. And so I can't stop what you did back here. That's kind of on you a little bit. That's my other job, right? But this job is moment of impact. And you land on your feet, that's a great moment of impact, because that's the furthest thing from your head. And if you can get to your feet, that's great. But when you land on your feet, again, you want to have that plan. And I thought she had a pretty good plan. Squatted, rolled, hands were up. Again, tough angles. We're just kind of dealing a little bit with what we have. But I wouldn't say that was really. I would say that was pretty good, right? So we've got a couple of good ones. We've got a couple of bad ones, right? But
yeah,
all can be a little bit improved in thought. Like, can we learn from these, right? Like everybody did something good, and everybody did something maybe could be a little bit better.
absolutely. Okay, we'll end here on Ariana, and Eesh.
Oof.
That looks like it hurt.
Yeah, that was a, and then we'll just go real slow. That's rein hold. That's the neck whip. Then that's what we worry about is the flat of the back, and that's why like body vests that are shaped and are a bit stronger. They are shaped a little turtle backy anyway for cross country, right? They're a little bit turtle shell shaped, and so that really helps. Yes, that's head on ground, um, and so that you can sort of feel that. And that's where it's really hard. One of the interesting things that I've learned over the years too, through all the research and reading and whatnot, is that neck strengthening is the number one reduction of concussion. So being able to withstand the impact, and most of our concussion research comes through the NFL and through football, right? And so University of Florida, they've got a thing that a buddy was telling me. They think if you see the hit coming, you shouldn't get concussed, so you should be able to withstand that impact because it's the snap of the head back and forth that really create the concussion. Sometimes you can take a real shine to the head, but if there's no rotation of the brain inside, it doesn't. It causes no damage. But then if there's a slingshot effect, right? If there's a whiplash effect in the head, then that is a problem, right? That's kind of where it comes from, and that's why it's so important to really tuck your chin into your chest and be able to hold to withstand that initial impact.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Everyone protect your heads. I think it's a great uh takeaway. And Danny, this has been so insightful. I know I've learned a lot. I know everybody who submitted videos definitely will have takeaways from this. And even if you didn't submit a video, like there are so many tangible takeaways as far as just planning for when you fall, how to do it to keep yourself safe. And one of the things you can do is attend a Landsafe clinic. So, Danny, tell us about how that works. Where does Landsafe go? How do people get in touch with you? How do they attend a clinic?
Yeah, so this year's our West Coast tour year. So we've got a few more clinics here on the East Coast, and then we head west and we do basically a circle navigation of the country. Um, we head out through Ohio, Idaho. We've hit just about every state. So we will be in your state. The best way to find out where we're going to be is just go to the website, which is www.landsafeequestrian.com. Landsafe Reducing Rider Risk is on Facebook, and we use Strider as our platform to register. So all the dates are on there. I will say this, it is very time consuming, very big venture for us to set up, for us to come to a place to do. And you're going to have to travel, because we can't come to every farm. We can't come to everything. We can't come for 5 people. We can't come for 10 people, and so it's important that the local trainers get together when someone is hosting us and work together and try not to host their own or do their own because there just literally aren't enough days in the year for us to do every farm. And I know that there's competition and people this and that, but look, we are independent. We're not there to tell you anything about your trainer or any other trainer or any other thing. We are our own thing, and to support each other locally when we're coming. And like I said, somebody asked about a clinic somewhere, and I was like, look, I know it's not close, but it's closer than like having to go to Ocala or having
Yeah.
to come to Massachusetts. I mean, we've had people from. I think our furthest person is from Dubai at this point. They flew
Oh
the
my
family over
gosh.
from Dubai. Yeah, we've had a couple of groups from Mexico come up. And so people will travel, and I think in this country a little bit, especially on the East Coast, people are pretty spoiled about driving an hour and a half. I mean, they'll drive 26 hours for a horse show and fall off at the first fence, right?
Yeah.
But they might not drive 26 hours for a lesson. And I think just I'm not kind of asking people to be thoughtful of we're not going to be able to do it. It's just not going to happen because there isn't enough time in the day. So please, if you think you want to do one, be willing to travel. Um, and that's why we do the cross country tour, because we didn't want to set up a business in Maryland and have that building and say, okay, you have to come here. I don't think that business model would have survived. To be quite honest, I think it will later on, but I don't think it'll survive right or would have survived in the beginning, and I think it would survive now. But
Yeah.
but we are sort of that is my big push for people to understand. And if you're listening, you're a parent, or you're listening, you're a kid, you know, parents, you got to make your kids do it. They don't understand that. They don't understand it. You know, if you're a coach out there, you know, kids, they don't want to do it. Look, they don't want to do their homework. They don't want to eat their vegetables. You know, this is one of these things that, you know, it shouldn't really be up to a child to decide whether or not they want safety training, or wear a hard hat, or wear a vest, or take a Landsafe program. You know, I really feel like the parents and the coaches need to step up and be like, look, this is really important. And it is really important. And then, you know, you can reach out to a lot of these 5-star riders that have worked with us and have been through the program, and they're going to tell you the same thing. You know, they're going to, this is important. And the more we see, the more we do, the more confident I am. I've always been confident in my program. Like, and it also makes you a better rider. That's the key. You know, people, I've never had anybody leave the program and go, I don't feel better about myself. They all leave feeling better about themselves, and having learned something. And from, you know, the kids to the adults to the adult amateur to the pros, you know, they're all like, wow, that's a lot of information I just got. And that really helps me to be more confident. And so understanding where that fire exit is, or understanding where I need to be in this moment, and having a thought process really talked out for, you know, a couple of days is shown to be super helpful.
That is amazing. Danny, thank you so much for spending the time and teaching us, and then also devoting so much time and energy to Landsafe, because it's such an important venture. And we at Ride IQ apps wholeheartedly support the mission that you're on to help riders be safer as they fall. And everybody who submitted videos, thank you for doing so. Danny, this was wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. And we hope everyone has a wonderful evening.
Well, thanks for having us. We'll see you soon.
Bye, guys.